Okay. Pam, welcome to our Friday live stream. How are you?
I am thankful it is Friday.
No kidding. This has been such a big week for so many people. We've really seen the PPP money start flowing in. And we've had two clients that have received $500,000 of an EIDL grant. I misspoke there, an EIDL loan. And they applied, when did they apply? Like the 22nd, 25th?
Yes. Of March, yep.
March. So we have that going on. We've got PPP money going on. And then we've got the flip side of those people who didn't get their PPP applications in early, or whether it was them or their banks weren't ready or whatever reason, then they ran out of PP money. So they're cash strapped. So I thought today would be a great time to talk about cash flow and managing your cash and what to look for and how to predict it and all of that kind of stuff.
I couldn't agree with you more.
All right. So this is one of those unscripted ones. Let's chat. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think we start with maybe why. Why do we want to forecast cash flow? Because, some clients keep their cash, the peg for their cash account. Well, let's just take a step back. Many of our clients live and breathe by their balance on their app.
That is not your cash balance.
Why is that not your cash balance, Brooke? I know this is a particular pet peeve of yours.
Yes, would you like me to get up on that soapbox?
Yes, please.
Here's the thing, what the app says on your phone, and look, we've all done it. Everyone's checked their phone to see, how much money do I have? Or, I have been checking recently to look to see, because we got the EIDL grant, like, has the EIDL grant hit yet? Like, you check those things. And I get it, but that's not the true cash balance, because that doesn't give you the full picture. Your true cash balance is what is in QuickBooks or whatever accounting system you use, because it takes into account checks that you've written that may not have been cashed yet, and deposits also. So there's a thing called float. Like, not everything happens instantaneously in
It does in the world today,
But really looking at what QuickBooks says you have, making sure it's updated, and looking at QuickBooks, that's going to give you your accurate cash balance.
Okay. So they've done studies on how much money you have sitting in your operating account, that whether you feel wealthy or not. And one of the things they found is that if you have money sitting in your operating account, you feel wealthy, right? You feel in control. One of the problems we have with clients when they get that way is they often spend the money 3 times.
Yeah, it's in there. They don't really realize that it's going to pay payroll next week. So let's go ahead and buy blank this week.
I think I need to treat the staff. I think I need to buy new office furniture. I think we're going to have a fabulous holiday. You know what I'm saying?
But it's not always, those are kind of more frivolous things. Sometimes it's, I think that we should invest in this, I don't know, marketing thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is a great marketing opportunity. You sent me a great marketing opportunity yesterday. And I'm like, ooh. And I was like, wait, hold on. I've got to put
random acts of marketing.
Yes, and you all know that I'm so good at the random acts of marketing. But it's a matter of, I have to put that in my cash flow and see what difference that's going to make and how it's going to lower my cash balance, because those funds may already be earmarked for something else.
Okay. So So there are certain times during the year where more cash flows out of a company than other times.
That's true even during the month,
Okay.
right?
Right, because you have a billing cycle and then you have, I mean, let's face it, most of the expenses, whether it's rent or payroll or whatnot, seem to be around the beginning of the month, right? There seems to be a particular pull on cash. So, so we have a tool that we've developed that I think we can show, because it's, you can keep all of this in your head to a point, but as your organization grows, as you have more inputs and outputs, and as you have you run more expenses through on a credit card, I think it gets more complicated and it needs to be organized.
Yeah, because so so sorry, in the 10 minutes before this call, I had two different people on my team call me about spending money. One, no, it was not you. One of them may have been in your household, who sent an email saying, ooh, I can do this and that, and it's only $5 more a month. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then she wrote back, she's like, yeah, but it's for this and it's for that. Turns out it's $199 a month. I'm like, yeah, that would be a big no on the $2,500 a year. The other one was a one-time charge of $199 or $299. So it wasn't a big deal. But those things kind of, you know, the $5 a month here, I added more email licenses because we've hired more people. I did that today. I upgraded everybody's Microsoft. Like, those things really kind of add up and you lose track of how much they are if you're not tracking your cash flow. So this is a cash flow forecast. And if anybody wants it, just put it in the comments or send us a DM and we will email this to you. But this is our basic cash flow forecast that we use with clients. And it's super easy to use. It does have very detailed instructions on the instructions tab. But this allows you to look 6 or 8 weeks out in the future. So Pam, should we just kind of go through and fill one out?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so you have to pick a day of the week when your cash flow begins. I don't care if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Don't care, but you need to pick one day and be consistent. Normally, we pick Mondays on this, and Monday is the day to update it. So Monday's date, because Pam, I don't know this off the top of my head. What was Monday's date?
The 20th.
Ah, awesome. All right. So we're going to put 420 right here, and you'll notice that all of these numbers automatically change. We're going to fill out all the blue boxes first. All right. I don't know whose company this is. Is this Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe?
Sure.
All right. Last time I looked, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe was overdrawn.
Nope. Let's give him $10,000.
All right. So we're going to say, actually, we're going to make it, you rarely have $10,000 in your account, but you do have $12,872.36 because I just made that up. You're going to notice that things start to change. We are going to assume, like a lot of people out there, that you don't have any business savings, that Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe does not have any business savings. But did Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe get a PPP loan?
Absolutely, they did. They applied early.
They applied early. They used a small regional bank, and they actually have a relationship with their banker. So they have cash in the bank, and I'm going to say they have $61,000 in a PPP grant. All right, so here's what you want to look at just before we put anything else in. If we don't deposit any money this coming week, and if we don't spend any money this week, our anticipated ending balance is shockingly going to be the same as our beginning balance. right? However, we have this $61,000, which, Pam, we're going to have to go over this again. You and I disagree on this. I like to keep that PPP money in a separate account. Pam is more likely to just go ahead and put it in operating. But we're going.
The answer is it depends. And, you know, on that guidance that we sent out last night about how you account for the PPP funds, I think you need to know the nature of the people, of the client, right? So there's some clients that, again, if it is in their operating account and their operating accounts on their app, they're going to spend it 3 times, right? So for those types of clients, I think it's best to out of sight, out of mind. For the other clients that are very diligent and on top of how they spend their money, I'm not so worried.
Okay. All right. So, but the combination, assuming that it is down here in a separate account, you have $12,872.36 in your operating account, plus the $61,000 gives you a total cash available of $73,872. Okay. Now, Pam, we got to get creative. So let's start at the top. This says 3 deposit sources. Why would we have 3 deposit sources?
So if we're a law firm, right, we would have amounts coming out of trust, and then we would have accounts receivable. If we are a e-commerce business, we would have money coming from Shopify. We'd have money coming from Amazon. We'd have money coming from a variety of different sources. So again, it depends on the nature of the business. And we might want to follow it by different revenue streams, I guess, you know. It's a check-in every week on, you know, how much did we get last week? And, you know, it's kind of a gut check.
Yeah. And, you know, you can do it by where the revenue is coming from physically, Shopify, Amazon, trust account, or you can actually do it by where it's coming from in like what product it's coming from, right? So if you had 2 or 3,
I guess it depends on how you set up your chart of accounts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it does need to relate to and match your P&L. And I think it also just needs to relate to how you think about it. So you brought up the P&L. And I do want to say, this is not an official financial report. This is a guide for people to use to help them be more mindful of what's happening with their dollars. If QuickBooks would do this, we would be ecstatic, but to get it to do this, it just won't. So this is a guide. This will never match exactly. So, all right, let's say we're doing, here, we're going to do trust. We're going to do AR, and we're going with Dewey, Cheatham and House, since we've already mentioned them. So they are a law firm. We're going to do initial consults. Okay. So there's certain things that we know for a law firm. If a law firm is working with a company like us, they probably bill once or twice a month. They probably have plenty of money in trust. So, and if they've written the fee agreement the way we like it to be written, then it says that you've got 10 days to dispute a bill, and then the money gets deposited. So if it is a firm like that, and we bill on the 1st, we're going to move money from trust on the 11th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we move it on the 11th. How much do we think we're going to deposit?
We're gonna have a good time, so 50,000.
All right. So you can get this number a couple of different ways. You can get it because of the capacity of your firm. Like if you add up all your people and you know that they're all running and they're making their billing goals every month, then you know how much you're going to deposit. You can also do it by looking at your WIP, your work in progress. You can also do it to some extent by looking at how much of that WIP you have in trust. So we're going to go through and we're going to say that we are running at about 80% capacity and we are very consistently doing 50,000 and a trust transfer every month.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I put it the week of 6/8 because the 11th falls in that week. So those are our trust transfers. What about AR? Do we have a lot of AR?
We don't, but those generally follow after we build, right? So we bill and they don't have money in trust. And so we send out an invoice and we have to start collecting on those invoices. So those usually fall in the off weeks.
Yeah, they usually tend to come in like kind of the last 2 weeks of the month. A lot the last week, right?
Yep, because that's when corporations send their checks out.
All right. Initial consults. So they're doing pretty well with their revenue. Though we only have them making 55,000 a month. That's not all that huge. They charge.
You're only billing monthly? Oh, okay. Well, then double that.
Okay. I was gonna say. All right. Oh, Pam.
Yes.
You know, we did that divorce a couple of weeks ago or a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That once it's settled, she was going to get that money out of that retirement account and pay us.
Yep.
That was like $18,450, right? And it's coming in the 4th. So we're going to put that in there. And then we're going to make a note that says that that is Jane Smith so that we know what that is. Okay. All right. Initial consults. So we're doing 100,000 a month. We've got a good team going. We charge $300 for a consult and we tend to have how many a week?
3.
3. So we do 900 a week and we're just going to fill it out all the way across. All right. And there you go. I'm going to come back to the PPP idle grants in a minute. So you can see how your cash balance, your anticipated balance is going from 13,700 up to 180,000 over here, which would be totally lovely if we never had to pay a bill. But we have to pay bills, right?
Fair enough.
So let's go through. Expenses fall in a pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've already talked about it. The first week of the month is horrendous. You've got rent, you've got payroll. The third week of the month, you usually have payroll. The last week of the month, you have to get all those other bills paid. And then you turn around and right again, you are trying to pay the first week. So we've done a couple of things for you. First of all, there's a tab down here called recurring bills. And this is where you go through and write down all your bills. So on the first day of the month, and all you have to put is the date itself, not the month or the year, we have rent, and rent is $2,500. And on the 14th, we pay AT&T $125. And on the 27th, we pay our internet company, and that one's $255. And then on the 7th, we pay another vendor for 340. And you just go through and you list out everything that comes out of your operating account, whether it's automatically debited or whether it's a check you write like rent. And then you take this, you go right over here to sort and filter, and you sort smallest to largest, and it puts it in date order. Okay. So once you have this all filled out, you go over here and you say, I need all expenses between the 20th and the 26th. So between the 20th and the 26th, we have one for $255. So you just put it in there. Now between the 27th and the 4th, oh, whoops. We don't have anything that week. Between the 27th and the 4th and the 3rd, you've got these two. And if you hit Control and click on both of them, you can go down in the corner down here and you can see the total is $27.55 because, you know, people didn't go to law school to do math. So you go through and you just program all of that out the same way, right? Easy peasy, right?
Yep.
This one looks like 340. This one is 125, and you just keep going. Payroll.
My largest expense.
It is our largest expense. But here's the thing, we can't do what we do without our people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are worth every penny because that is how you make money in a service-based business. It's that leverage. So we pay on the 5th and the 20th. So I'm going to say it's 18,000. Oops. Pretty cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think you're adding it rather than subtracting it.
Oh my gosh, Pam, you're totally right because it's an expense, so it should be negative. So I'm going to move this down to regular expenses. So let's put a negative in front of it. There we go. So do you notice anything happening?
I'm losing money.
You're losing money. Yeah, look, we're going to be $4,000 overdrawn at the end of this week. We're going to be $1,300 overdrawn here and $7,500 overdrawn here. And guess what we still haven't done?
I haven't paid myself.
You haven't paid yourself, nor have you paid your credit card. So how much is the credit card every month?
Well, you know, I'm just going to tell you, I take a bit of a different approach on credit cards, but I'm gonna follow through for you on this version. I put a good 20 grand on my credit card every month.
And when's it due?
It's due around the 18th.
The 18th. All right. So the good news is we've paid the credit card for this month. Oh, hold on. That's just making things worse, Pam. Oh, we still haven't paid the owner. How much is the owner supposed to get?
I take money every time I bill. And I take 10 grand every time I transfer from the trust. But I think you have in cell E5, you have, yeah, there we go.
I was going to say, man, you can't afford to take 10,000.
Absolutely, I can. I always have.
Yeah, but we're overdrawn here, babe.
Oh, you only gave me 1,000 in the week of 5/11, man. I want 10,000.
Picky, picky, picky.
Girls gotta do what a girl's gotta do.
I can't believe that your credit card bill's only 20,000.
Okay, fine.
I haven't really looked at it. All right. So there are a couple of rows left here that we need to program out. Well, first of all, I need to put the rest of these expenses in, which are very obviously a little light. Extraordinary expenses. So what are extraordinary expenses?
Well, one extraordinary expense, it's not necessarily an expense, but an extraordinary cash outflow would be taxes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if I'm going to some events, so once a quarter I travel to a conference and I incur, you know, airfare, hotel, and, you know, that's $3 to $5 grand. That kind of thing. Or if I go to a trade show like Mass Torts Made Perfect or PILMA,
Okay.
I might put some of those marketing expenses that are one-off or seasonal.
All right. So let's say we're going to PILMA, which is in June, right? And you're actually a sponsor. So we need to pay that sponsorship fee, right?
Yep.
Do we know how much that is?
Ooh, that's a pricey one. I'm going to say 10 grand because of the package that we selected.
Okay. And then you're going to have to buy a plane ticket. When are you going to buy? Oh, wait, hold on. Before I move on, I need to once again put a note here that that is PILMA sponsorship. Should I spell sponsorship right?
Close enough for government work.
Close enough. All right. What else have you got?
So I'm going to have to buy plane tickets, and then I'm going to have hotel, and then I need some walking around money.
All right. So when are you going to buy the plane ticket? And how are you going to buy the plane ticket? Are you going to write a check for it? Are you going to put it on your credit card? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm probably going to put it on my credit card, but yeah, and the hotel, I'm going to stay at the Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans, and that's $249 for a night.
Night. And how many nights are we going to be there?
It says from the 20, well, you can get this rate from the 26th through the 30th. So.
All right. So we think in this week, it's $250 a night. When are we going? How many nights? 3 nights?
3 nights, yeah.
3 nights. So that would be $750, except it's New Orleans and they have Mongo taxes on hotels. So $1,000 for the hotel.
Sure.
All right. So I think one of the important things is that we're having a conversation about it, right? And it's really thinking it through. So this is the Ritz in New Orleans. But the other things we're going to have to do is buy a plane ticket. So let's say we buy the plane ticket here and it's $500. By the way, they're saying that plane tickets are going to be more expensive after this, not less, because of social distancing.
Oh, they're going to only use every other seat or something?
Yeah.
Won't that be delightful? Legroom for once.
Yes, when you're 6'2" like you are, legroom's important. I think the other thing that we have to think of, it may be $1,000 for the hotel room, but we need to edit that note because you got to eat. So, and it's New Orleans for three nights. What do we think? $600?
Sure, that'll do me.
And then we need Ubers. But the point is, like, however much you end up putting in here, it's thinking it through. It's thinking everything through. What are we doing? What are the costs associated with that? Can I spend this money today or do I have to wait? So as you can see, we're totally overdrawn in these first 3 weeks. That's a problem. So you want to do things like get on the phone with the guys from Pilma and say, can I move this a couple of weeks later? Because now we're only overdrawn this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
What bills can you move? What can you think about doing? How can you make it better, easier, less stressful? So the other thing to think about is you do have the PPP funds here and you've got payroll running here. So if payroll is $18,000 gross, which means the employee portion of taxes, but not the employer, because employer taxes aren't part of
Forgiveness.
right, they're not forgivable. Then we would put 18,000 here. Notice you've got
That
money.
helps out a lot, huh?
Yeah, you've got $13,000 at the end of this week. But also look here, your PPP funds have dropped.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we want to do that every time we have a forgivable expense. There's rent. And one of the things you want to do, just like with
I'm paying $25,000 of rent.
cheapskate, I'm your landlord. Let's make it worth my while here. So you want to make a note with everything, everything associated with the CARES Act, whether it's the PPP loan, whether it's the EIDL grant or the EIDL loan. And I do want to take some time and talk about EIDL loans today. You really want to have a paper trail and know what you're doing. So put a note on that says PPP rent for June, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is that you do, make sure that it's really well annotated, because, and this has been a huge discussion that we've been having a lot recently, enforcement's going to go up. So this is how this works. The other thing that you want to do to help you find this credit card amount that you pay every month, we have another form here where you can put the date and all of those recurring charges, like all the ones that I found in the past couple of days because Citibank had to cancel my card because they sent it to the wrong place and somebody used it. So now I don't have a Citibank card today, so I'm changing it all over. And you find those things like Infusionsoft and Microsoft and all those people that have you on recurring charges. Put all that here, and that'll help you find this. So I think the real key to your cash flow forecast is looking ahead and trying to figure it out. And when you get to the end here, you know, as time goes by, you can copy and paste and then make adjustments here for what's appropriate, okay? The other thing that you want to do is at some point we need to true this up. At some point we need to say, we didn't get the money in we thought we were going to get in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody treats their cash flow forecast a little differently. Personally, I don't use this one anymore. I use a different one that's a little more advanced. I would go in and actually put how much I deposited. So if I deposited $72.54 this month, I would go back in and make that an actual. And we only had 2 consults, but we had 4 consults here.
And And to view it a little easier, I often gray out the months, the weeks that I've updated so that I know what's the future and it's a little bit easier to read.
That's a great idea. But what you want to do probably next Monday morning is come in and check QuickBooks and see what your account balance is. You thought it was going to be about $14,000, but instead you find that it's $22,38.
So this is the actual balance in the bank account on Monday morning, not the balance per QuickBooks.
No, it is the QuickBooks balance. It is your true cash balance, which you find in QuickBooks. Delete the app on your phone, Pam. I know you like it. I know it's handy. So we were off by $12,000. If you're off by that much, you really want to investigate. But it turns out that it was only 18. It was 13,859, which isn't, you know, that's $200. That's not a big deal. We're not worried about that. Don't go chase it down. You'll notice that this number carries up here. So the advantage of this, I think, is, you know, at least twofold. I think that you look at it and it makes you think through your expenses. And I think it also gives you an opportunity, if anything down here starts turning red, to make a decision before you're there. Shall I tell my favorite cash flow forecast story? Yeah, you know this one. So I was working with a client. He's an attorney out on the West Coast. And we looked at it. We were looking like, I don't know, I think it was 5 weeks out, and there was red. It was red here. And he kind of hyperventilated for a minute, and I'm like, okay, don't worry, we can get through this. Let's take a look. Can we move some bills? Kind of like we moved this $10,000. Well, that wasn't enough to get him out of the hole. So we talked about what he could do and some ideas, because it was 5 weeks out. I mean, he had some time. And he's a DUI attorney. So we talked about things like go back, look at your client, see if you could sell some expungements. I mean, that was really what I thought he was going to do. So
what they are.
Yeah. So we talked about, you know, a week later, and I look at his cash flow forecast and there's no red. I'm like, what did you do? And he said, I sold the Blue Binder project. So he and his wife had sat down and they had talked about why people get DUIs, and they kind of been kicking around, you know, if we could stop DUIs from happening, that would be a really good thing. And so when they had this cash crunch, they really talked about it, and they talked about it in a different way. And they realized that they could sell a product that would help people with this. They kept all their notes in a blue binder, so it is therefore known as the Blue Binder Project. He now just calls it the BBP, but at that point we were calling it the Blue Binder Project. And what the Blue Binder Project does is you work with a therapist and all this, and you try to figure out why you drink and blah, 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 blah. The neat part of it is that when you've gone through the Blue Binder Project and you go to court, you take this certificate with you that you have done this course. And it's changing the way people are getting sentenced, which I think is amazing.
All because of a cash flow crunch.
All because of a cash crunch. But he had 5 weeks to figure it out. 5 weeks is forever. 5 hours before payroll's due, you're kind of SOL. There's not a whole lot to do, right? You got to just figure it out.
Right. So Brooke, we've obviously talked about, you know, people that are in significant cash crunches or are managing down to the last dollar. There's a lot of other clients that, you know, might not be so restricted, but the cash flow is more strategic for them on when they're going to do projects and whatnot. And I was just talking to a client this morning on the phone, and I said, you know, it would be good for us to peg our cash balance at something above zero so that we don't have to have this much of your energy spent on deciding whether you're going to pay a bill this week or next week. And we both know that there's other clients that we have out there that, you know, cash flow was a huge distraction to us being strategic with them. And so the goal is that you get to a point, and I think the PPP is an opportunity where cash flow is more of a, you know, more of a look into the next 6 to 8 weeks from an operational standpoint, as opposed to a to-do list of things you have to do to make sure you make payroll.
Yeah, great.
I do want to talk, I know you want to talk a bit about the idle loans, but I do want to talk about some modifications to this, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're not going to go into the details, but we do have a different version of this for all the clients that practice profit first. I mean, it's a great concept.
We love it. In fact, Pam, I don't know if you've seen it. Hold on. Look what I have.
Oh, I'm excited about this.
This
Brooke's
is
new book.
It's coming out, but more importantly, quote from Mike Michalowicz, who wrote Profit First.
Right. So we have a particular cash flow forecast that builds those cash flows into it. And I think in an up and coming webinar, we'll talk more about Profit First. But you need to customize this because we've tried to implement this with different clients. And if it doesn't work for you, then you need to think about why, and you need to talk with your team on how you can modify it so it works for you. So a couple of modifications that I've made with clients is regular expenses. Some clients think in terms of fixed and variable.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. And so another thing is some clients are super simple. And so rather than having the extra tabs, they just add a few rows. And that's good to a point. But if it's hard to look at, you're not going to look at it. And you know me, I like everything condensed and super simple.
Yeah. And I will say, if it's below the fold, you're not going to see it. Like if you have to scroll down to see something.
Right.
So
the other thing
this many
is that this model is built for one account, right? And so I have several clients that have several operating accounts that might be operating accounts for different locations or different business ventures, right? And so I often take this model and then add on to it a top level cash flow that tracks the trends, just that anticipated balance, but for each and every operating account they have. So,
awesome.
You know, a lot of clients show up and have tax accounts because they're on a payment plan with the IRS, or they want to make sure that they're socking away those. I often do top level cash flow statements that pull the different components to make sure we're on target, you know, for our savings account and so on and so forth. So while the operating account is where I spend most of my time, I still like to a couple times a month just eyeball the other accounts.
Yeah.
The last thing I do is I don't have the credit card charges. I do net cash. So I have for accounts with just one operating account, I then have their credit card balance because those are automatically fed into QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And so it gives them the sense that it's not like you spend a boatload of money on the 18th of every month. You are spending that throughout the month. And I think that helps them save a little bit more during the month because it's more conservative, right? So as they're on the regular expenses, I merge both things that hit the credit card and things that hit the bank account directly, so that then we can just talk about net cash, and it gives them just a little bit, it's a little bit more conservative.
Yeah.
So that when it's time to pay the credit card bill, the money's there, and it helps them get away from the mindset of the app.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
and just like this is going down, you could totally add one that's going up that has the credit card balance on it. And then the cash available would be changing. And this is the cash that we're worried about.
So those are just a few, the profit first, the fixed and variable, the net cash, you know, and only having one tab. Those are some of the modifications I've seen made. But you know, this is a place to start. It's a framework that people need to customize, because the more you own it, the more you'll use it.
Right. So in your opinion, who should be updating this?
Yeah. I would say your accountant should be updating it, depending on the size of your organization.
Yeah. I agree, unless you're under, you know, like $500,000 a year. And then I think you need to be the one updating it, because you need to be pretty.
Fair enough.
So, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I want to talk about tracking some other cash. I want to talk about tracking the proceeds of your PPP loan and your EIDL grant, because I've gotten so many questions about this, like huge number of questions. So first of all, I just want to say your maximum forgiveness is the amount of your PPP loan. If you get an EIDL grant, it does not get forgiven separately from your PPP. So in this case, this person got $61,000. If they got $5,000 from the EIDL grant, their max forgiveness is still $61,000. So just know that. But also you need to really track. We've started reading people's PPP loan docs. And
in their EIDL loan docs, yeah.
Their EIDL loan docs. But the PPP loan docs, you know, we've had bankers say that they don't know really exactly what they're going to need and how stringent it's going to be to get it forgiven. So we always want to err on the side of caution. So as I was saying earlier, when you make these deposits, make sure you document it. Have at the very least a spreadsheet where you're tracking them. And if you want one of those spreadsheets, we've created one for you. You can go to cathcap.com. Cathcap.com. What is it? cathcap.com/PPP tracking. Here, you want me to go find it?
I trust you.
No, I'll show people what it looks like. So you can go here and
Not
you can,
sharing your screen.
well, I'm about to.
I'm glad I'm not in the hot seat. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you don't like running it. So this goes and looks at 5 different ways you can track your PPP loan. There's a little intro video for me. Yes, I'm wearing the same color shirt, same shirt today that I wore in these videos, just a different colorway. So we've got advantages, we've got disadvantages, and we've got down here, we've got a bunch of free options to help you track it, to teach you how to do it. So just make sure that you're tracking, because it's going to be incredibly important. And the longer we get into this, the more they're going to start looking. The government's not looking very far ahead on this. They are looking just as close as possible. So after we get
one day at a time, one day at a time.
We got new funding. I'm guessing the new funding is going to run out in 10 days, 2 weeks. And then we're going to be in a situation where they don't have the cash again, and they're going to start thinking about what forgiveness looks like. So you want to make sure that you are ready with everything you need to prove how you spent the funds. So do that. And then you want to talk about the EIDL loan itself a little?
Sure. Which, you know, is shockingly easy, has been shockingly easy for clients to get. We've seen the ones that are applied the earliest start getting contact. the contact seems to be mysteriously, the process that we understand seems to be mysteriously you receive $1,000 per full-time equivalent, FTE, deposited in your bank account with the description of being SBA and a truncated version of the word treasury. So once you get that, then
signing documents for that, right? It just appears.
it just appears, right? And so that we believe is the advanced portion. And then after they get that, clients begin to see that the SBA is running their credit. Okay, so they're doing a credit check on the owner of the business. And then they send an email, and the email comes out from an interesting email address. Let me get that here just so that we're all on the same page, because I let my clients know about that yesterday. Oops, I'll find it here. So they get this email, and the email has your application, your idle number application in both the memo, the title of the email, but also in the body of the email. And the emails come from disaster customer service at sba.gov.
And that totally looks like something that you would delete as spam.
Oh, absolutely. But it has your SBA application number in it, and it has things like submitted confirmation. And then what the submitted confirmation is doing is it's asking you to take the next step. And the next step is to create an account with the SBA.
Okay.
And so when you go on, you create the account, right? And then in that session, they will show you what they think you're eligible up into, right? And it's a shockingly interesting number that they will let you have.
Yeah, we've gotten some people that they've given a lot of money.
Right. But here you're going to have to sign, much like you did with the bank, you signed a loan agreement. Here you're signing the loan agreement with the SBA. And so,
and do you have to do representations? Do you have to say, I've really been very economically hard hit?
We haven't viewed with the client as they've gone through that. I'm eager to see what you have to say. Some of the requirements are based upon which bracket of borrowing you're in.
Okay.
So there are some more representations, there's some warranties, there's some liens and whatnot that you can get into the saltier the size of your loan is.
So like, I do know that if it's under 200,000 or something, you don't have to do a personal guarantee, right?
Right. And we haven't seen any of those yet.
We're hearing.
So yeah, and we have a copy of the loan documents, and there's, I mean, this is 30-year money. Okay. And I celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary. So this loan's going to be out there longer than I've been married. Okay. And I'm pretty old now. I'm just going to tell you. So I'm not going to be around by the time that this thing comes due, but for 30 years, you're going to have somebody else looking at your financial statements. And most people,
I thought you were going to say handcuffs.
Well, they are handcuffs of some variety. But
because you can't do, right? Like,
well, right. But there's also a huge penalty if you do it wrong. If you don't use the funds right.
Yeah.
You can't use it on things on your balance sheet. You can't give yourself bonuses. You can't distribute it out to the owners. There's a lot of things you cannot do with it. And some of there's an idle loan PowerPoint presentation out on the SBA website, and much like the PPP, you read these documents and you just kind of scratch your heads. But right now, I do not believe that the SBA has, if they have, they don't have a big enforcement division. But the amount of money that's being pushed out into our economy, I have to believe in a time when people are hurting and you're not going to be able to raise taxes, that they might look at enforcing some of the clauses that come in here. But things like, I don't think you can move. You have to ask them permission to move.
Yeah, that was mind-boggling to me.
Oh, at 30 years? How many times have I moved in the last 30 years? Like
No,
dozens.
About moving your office or your home, or is it both? Or do we know?
I think it's the business.
The business.
But,
Okay.
I mean, if you take this kind of money and you invest it, right, to invest it means that you're going to get a return higher than 3.75% year after year after year. So if you're going to invest this money wisely, then, and you're going to have to, because this is not forgiven, right? You are going to have to pay this back. So you get a year before you have to start making payments. And then, on $500,000, you're looking at about a $2,200 a month. It's like a mortgage payment almost.
It sounds like a mortgage. It's 30 years. You can't move without letting them know. It's not to be used for specific uses. And I think what's amazing is like, you can't buy a piece of equipment with it.
No, you can't. And, there's some people that, on both the PPP and the EIDL, there's people that look at it very simplistically. As long as I take care of it, right? As long as I do my compliance, as long as I, don't do anything crazy, I'll be fine. But it's 30 years, right? So what procedures and policies and checks and balances are you going to put in place to make sure that you continue for 30 years when I'm going to tell you, I am not going to be sending them financial statements in 30 years. Okay. I'm going to be in my mid 80s, and I'm not going to be the person responsible for sending them.
But also think about like 7 years from now. I just randomly picked that. When you need a bigger office and you move offices because you can, and you're making your payments, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and the SBA finds out you've moved, what's the penalty?
1.5 times the amount of the loan.
So, and it is in a payment plan?
No, I think it's due like on demand.
On demand. It is due that day. You breach the contract. This is a 30-year contract. You breached the contract. You didn't ask our permission to move next door. Now you owe us $750,000, and you still have to pay back the rest of the loan.
So it just makes you beg the question of, when is this loan really due? Okay. Because if you're going to, I was on a call earlier today with a bunch of people who are seeking to buy businesses. And I said, you need to factor that into the purchase price, because it's likely before you can buy the business that loan needs to be paid off, or it needs to be part of the closing process. Right. And so, is it really 30-year money? Or is it more until I have fundamental changes in my business money?
Right, because there is no prepayment penalty. So you can take this and pay it back in 16 months. You can take this and pay it back in 5 years. You can also take less than the full amount that they give you. Okay,
but right, yes, absolutely. But people are greedy, right? And people feel like they're kind of winning the lottery, right? And people, it's like with student loans. Let's just find the similarities between this and student loans. We have a student loan problem in the US now. Why? Because people have not invested in education that can get them a job that can help them pay back the loan.
You mean my history degree isn't a lot of good?
Right. And so So, you know, just because you have the money doesn't mean you're going to be able to repay it. As a matter of fact, the odds are you're not going to be able to repay it, that you're going to waste it, and that you're going to be in a whole lot of hurt. Maybe you won't be, but maybe the next generation, or, you know, I could see people going bankrupt. And I don't know what happens. I haven't read that deep into the documents about when you figure out that you can't pay the government back because you blew the money.
Because, I mean, most loans from the government are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. So,
Well, what if you die? Okay, let's just say, you know, for my scenario, right? You give me $500,000 today, I'm going to be 85 by the time that this thing is due back. And granted, you know, they're installment payments all along, but
amortizing loan, you'll pay it down some.
yeah, I'm just telling you, I got lots of questions. I got, you know, I can get on my soapbox as a taxpayer, but we need to be wrapping this up and respecting people's time.
We are at an hour and our deal is an hour. So if you have questions about your loans and how to account for them and what you should be doing, give us a call. Call me or Pam. Our number is 817-338-1011, or you can shoot us an email, Brooke or Pam at cathcap.com. All right. DM us, whatever works. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.